Hey there, how's it going everybody? In this video, I'd like to walk through how to set up a Python development environment in Atom. Now, Atom is a text editor that is becoming a popular alternative to editors like Sublime Text. Now, I've done a video on how to set up a Python development environment in Sublime Text, but a lot of people are starting to give Atom a try. So I wanted to put together a video on this as well so that people can get their Python environments set up easily. Now, there are some good reasons that Atom is becoming popular. So first of all, it is completely free. Now, Sublime Text is free to evaluate for an unlimited amount of time, but you'll get pop-ups asking you to purchase the full version every now and then. So Atom being completely free is definitely appealing to most people. And also Atom has a lot of support. It was developed by the people at GitHub, and it comes installed with a package manager and makes it easy to install packages right out of the box. Now, Sublime Text has improved that in process in some of its later updates, but there's still an initial step there that needs to take place before you can begin installing packages, and Atom doesn't have that problem. And we'll see some other differences as we walk through this setup process. Now, if you've never used Sublime Text before, then you can just ignore the comparisons that I make throughout this video. The only reason I bring those differences up is because these editors are very similar and they share a lot of the same user base. And those people might find it useful to have those differences pointed out. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So I have the Atom download page pulled up here. Now I'm on my Mac, so it defaults to the Mac download, but you should have a download link for your operating system here. So I'm going to go ahead and download that, and I'm going to go ahead and skip to where this is finished downloading. And once that's finished downloading, then we can unzip that. And on a Mac, we just have to drag this app to our applications folder. If you're on another operating system, then you might have to go through a quick installation. Okay, so now let's open up our fresh installation of Atom. And now I'm just going to go ahead and maximize this. Okay, so when we first open Atom, it's going to pop up with some welcome information here. So on the right, we have this welcome guide with some documentation to the keyboard shortcuts and things like that. I'm going to go ahead and just close that down and close this link. Now on this welcome screen here, I'm going to uncheck this show welcome guide when opening Atom. And now I'm going to close that. Now this telemetry consent, I'm just going to click no here for now, but you can do whatever you want here. It's just to help them improve Atom. You can anonymously send information and stats and things like that. So just so we have something to work with, I have a test Python module here that I'm just going to go ahead and dump into Atom and go ahead and open that up. Now this is a sample class that I use from my object-oriented series. If you don't understand what the code is doing, then you don't have to worry about it. I just wanted something that we could work with and also something with classes and functions so that we can see the differences between the different color schemes. And I'm going to make this font a little bigger here so that we can see everything. Now if you watched my Sublime Text walkthrough, then at this point we were actually able to go ahead and run our Python code. Now in Atom we can't quite do this yet. We have to first install a package so that we can run these scripts. So let's install that first package so that we can add this functionality. So to install a package, let's open up our preferences page. And on a Mac, that is under Atom and Preferences. Now on Windows, I think that might be under File, Preferences. Now the Atom Preferences and Settings have this nice layout. We don't have to use JSON configuration files or anything like that. So it's a nice little interface that's pretty intuitive. So to install our package, we can just click on Install down here at the bottom. Now the package that we want to search for is called Script. And if we search for that, then we can see that the top result is what we are looking for. Now there's also a nice feature here that shows the total number of downloads, which gives you a good idea of how popular a package is. So just click on Install to install that package. And once that package is finished installing, then you can click on the settings to view the settings for that package. Now within these settings, this is where we can configure our packages how we like. But this is also where we can view the README files and get suggestions for how to properly use the package. Now if we scroll down to the bottom here, then we should see a section on keyboard shortcuts. So now with this package installed, we should be able to run our Python scripts within Atom. The keyboard shortcuts here are for each operating system. So I can see to run this on the Mac, it's Command I, and on Linux and Windows, it's Shift Control B. So I'm going to move over here to this test module and run this with the Mac Command keyboard shortcut. Now the output that we got here for this script is a little small. You might not be able to read this, but basically when we printed out our executable path, I got the default path to the Python on my machine, and that version is Python 3.5. And then it also ran the other information here within this script as well. Now that default path on your machine may be different than the default path on my machine. Now, if you want to run different versions of Python or run Python from a virtual environment here in Atom, then there's something different that we need to set up. And I'll show you how to do that later in this video. But for now, let's go ahead and install the rest of the packages and get this customized a bit. So first of all, let's go ahead and install a different color scheme. Now, the color scheme I like to use is the same one that I like to use in Sublime Text, and it is called Predawn. So to install this, I'm going to go back here to the preferences. Then I'm going to click on install, and instead of packages over here, I'm instead going to click on themes to search for themes. And now that we're searching for themes, I'm going to search for Predawn. Now this part is a little different than Sublime Text. In Sublime, we installed the entire theme, but in Atom, these are broken up between UIs and the syntax. I actually like the default UI that comes with Atom, so I'm just going to install the syntax coloring. So over here, I'm going to click install on the Predawn syntax. So now that's installed, but it's not activated yet. So to activate this, then we can click up here on themes, and under the syntax theme, then now we have this Predawn option. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. And now if we go back to our test module, then we can see that the look of this has been updated. And this is just a personal preference. I'd recommend you try different themes and color schemes to see what you like. But if you watched many of my videos, then you'll probably notice that this is the one that I personally use. So now that we have our color scheme in place, now let me show you a few of the default settings that I personally like to change. So within our settings here, now let's go up here to Editor. And within Editor, we can choose our font family. So the font that I use is Source Code Pro. And that is a font that is available for free on Google Fonts. And I'll leave a link to that in the description section below. Now the font size I usually like to have set to 20. And I know that that's large, but that's just because I do these videos and want everyone to be able to see. You'll likely choose something much smaller there. Now if we scroll down here a bit, now there's one setting that I like here called scroll past the end. Now if I go to my test module without that selected, then you can see when I scroll down to the bottom, then I can't scroll anymore once we hit the end of the file, and that kind of annoys me. So I like to set that scroll past end option, and now when I go back to my module, then you can see that we can scroll past the end of this file. And also, whenever I am programming in Python, I like to have my tab length set to 4 spaces, and by default in Atom that is set to 2. So I'm going to go ahead and change that. Okay, and that does it for the editor settings. Now, one other thing I like to disable in Atom is the default auto-completing. So for example, if I go to my test module down here at the bottom, and I was to type in, employee 2 equals E, then you see that it's popping up these autocompletes as I'm typing, and a lot of the times I don't find these pop-ups that useful. So I'd personally rather just disable them. And now to do this, we can go back to our settings, and then we need to select our packages. Now you can see here some core packages that came installed with Atom. And if I scroll down here, now you can see a short description of what each of these do. Now the one that I want to disable is this Autocomplete Plus and also Autocomplete Snippet. So I'll disable both of those. Now if I go back to my test module, then you can see it's no longer trying to autocomplete those. Now if you are someone who likes that auto-completing capability, then the suggestions for Python code are much more Python friendly if you install the Autocomplete Python package. So let's go over to our settings and let's click on install. And now we want to select packages over here instead of themes. Now I'm going to search for Autocomplete Python. Now I don't personally use this, but I'll just go ahead and install this really quick just to show you how this looks. Now when this finishes installing, it's going to ask if you want to use Kite or a local engine. Now, Kite is something that goes out onto the internet and finds documentation and things like that. Now, I think it sounds really interesting, but some of the things that I work on at my full-time job aren't allowed to be sent over the cloud, so I usually choose to use the local engine instead. But if you think that cloud or that Kite sounds interesting, then you're more than welcome to give that a try. Okay, so once we've selected that local engine, now if we're back here on our test module, now if I type in, you can see that it's trying to autocomplete as I type, and these are more Python specific. So if I come back and just type in, this E, then I'm assuming that these B's mean built in. I'm not entirely sure, but you can see that we have some more Python specific autocompletions there. So that is a popular Python package, but like I said, I don't personally like the autocomplete pop-ups. So I'm going to go over here and just disable the autocomplete package that I just installed. Okay, so let's install a few more packages that I like to use within Atom. So some of these aren't specifically Python related, but I like the functionality that they add. So if I click on install here, we're already at this installation page. Make sure that we're on packages. Now, one package that I like a lot is file icons. Now, before I install this, if you look here at our Python file in this tree view over here, it's just a simple file icon. And this package will make those look a little better, and it also is a little bit more descriptive of what the file actually is. So you can see that the top result here has over 2 million downloads, so it's a pretty popular download. So let's go ahead and install that. And once that's installed, now if we look over here to our Python file, now we can see that the icon is now a nice colored Python icon right beside the file name. And if you work on a large project with a lot of different file types, then I think this package not only makes that tree look better, but also helps you find files more quickly. Okay, so another package that I like to install is one called Minimatte. So let's go ahead and search for that. And this top one is the one that we want here, so let's go ahead and install that. Okay, so once that's finished downloading, if we switch over here to our module, then we'll see now that to the far right over here, we have this general overview of what the file looks like and also where we are in this file. Now, this isn't so useful with such a small sample module, but if we had thousands of lines of code, then this gives you a better idea of where you are in those scripts. Okay, now let's add a package that's more focused on Python programming. So this package is called Python Autopep 8. So let's go ahead and search for that. It is Python Autopep 8. Now, I like this package because it keeps everything nice and consistent. So let's go ahead and install this and we'll take a look at what it does. Now, there are a few other PEP8 packages that have more downloads than this one, but I found this one to be the easiest to set up and use. So now let's go ahead and go into the settings of this package that we just installed. So within the settings here, if we scroll down to the bottom, then we'll see a very short README file. And it says to make sure that we have Autopep8 installed by using the pip install Autopep8 command. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this. And if you don't have that Autopep8 installed, then we may need to install this from the command line using pip. So actually, I just installed that or copied that, but I'm just going to type it out. So pip install Autopep8. Now, if you've never used pip before, it's very simple to use. I do have a separate video on how to use pip if you need a walkthrough. But for now, I'm just going to go ahead and do that pip install. Okay, so now that is installed. Now let's go back to the module and see if that takes effect. So let's make some changes here and add some extra spaces that aren't really PEP8 compliant. And when I save this, it should auto format. Okay, so I saved it and it didn't auto format. I think sometimes whenever we install different packages, we might need to restart Atom for those changes to take effect. So I'm going to go ahead and quit out of Atom and then open that back up. Okay, so now let's see if I make a change and save it. Okay, so that still didn't work. Let's open up the settings here. Okay, so there is a check here for format on save. So I forgot to check that. So that was probably the problem. So now let's go back to the module again. Now with that format on save checked, Now, if we save this, okay, so now after I save that, it, auto formatted. So let me do that again and save it. And you can see that everything jumps back up to have the proper PEP8 spacing. Now, having that auto formatting on save is especially nice when working with a team because you don't want a lot of the get differences to be differences in line spacing and things like that. So using this helps a lot in those scenarios. Okay, so the last package that we're going to install here is a linter that will point out any of our mistakes. So I'm going to go back over here to the settings and install packages. And the linter that I like is a package called linter flake 8. So let's search for that. Okay, so this is the package that we're looking for here at the top. So I'm going to go ahead and install that. And it also has to install a dependency called linter. So it installed that when we installed the flake 8 linter. Okay, so just like our AutoPep8 package, let's open these settings and let's scroll down here to the README file. And we can see that it has installation instructions as well. And just like with the AutoPep8, we need to pip install this flake 8 if we don't have it installed already. So I'm going to pull up my terminal. And just like I did with the AutoPep8, I'm going to do a pip install, and that is flake 8. Okay, so now without restarting Atom here, let's open up our Python module and let's type in some errors that our linter should catch. So down here at the bottom, let's make a for loop here, and let's accidentally, so I'll say for num in, and I'll just make a list of 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to accidentally leave off the colon here at the end of this for loop. And within this for loop, I'll do a print. And instead of printing num, I'm just going to print in. So now if we save this, now we have two errors here. One says syntax error at line 26. This is unexpected indentation. So now we can actually click on these lines here where it's showing the error. And after looking at this line that's telling us where the syntax is bad, if we look at this for a little bit, then we'll probably realize that the colon is missing here. So let's put that colon in and save that. And now after I save that, we can see that we have a mark here that says unidentified name in at line 27. So once it points that out to us, then we know that that should be num instead of in. And it also looks like it gave us that syntax error too, because I forgot to remove that line from earlier when I was showing the autocomplete. Okay, and after we remove all those errors, then all of those linter warnings go away. And it's nice having something like that watching in the background because we all make dumb mistakes like that, and it's nice to have something that points those out. Okay, so that was the last package that I wanted to show you, but one thing that I mentioned before was that I'd like to go over how to run different versions of Python or how to point to a virtual environment. So if you watched my Sublime Text installation video, then this is basically the equivalent of their build systems. So that very first package that we installed to run our Python code that was called script, if we want to run our Python code using that, then like I said before, we can hit Command I to run that, but we can also hit Command Shift P to bring up our command palette, and then we can type in script, which is the name of that package. Now you can see here that this gives us the option to run. That's what we've already seen before, and then the keyboard shortcut over here is Command I. But there's also some additional options here. And we can see here that one of these is run options. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And then it pops up these different options that we can use when running the script. Now the one that I want to change here is this command. So this command here, we can plug in the path to whichever Python that we want to use. So for example, I know that my path to Python 2.7 is in user bin Python 2.7. So let's say that I wanted to run our script with this Python 2.7 version. So we can either just run that or we can save this as a profile. Now we're going to want to save this as a profile because it's something that we're going to want to use over and over without having to type in that path every time. So I'm going to save that as a profile, and I'm just going to call that Python 2.7. And now that Python 2.7 pops up, and I can run the script with that. And now if we look at our output down here, now sorry again that this text is small, but I'm not sure if there's a way that I can enlarge this or not, but I'll go ahead and just read to you what it popped out here. But when we print our sys.executable, it's printing out the path to that Python 2.7. And when I print out the sys.version, now it's printing out 2.7 down here. So it is using that Python 2.7 version. Now the script doesn't default to any of those profiles. So if I just run the script regularly, so I just ran it again, and now down here it's popping out Python 3.5. So if we want to run it with that Python 2.7 profile again, then we can just pull up that command palette and type in script. And there's one option here that is run with profile. Now usually it gives the keyboard shortcut over here. I'm not sure why it's not showing up now, but the keyboard shortcut on a Mac is Command-Shift-K. So now that I clicked on run with profile, then you can see that it pops up with the profiles that I have available, and we've only made the one Python 2.7 one. So now I can run it with that. And down here at the bottom, this is the output for this, for the sys.version, is Python 2.7. So it did run that correctly. And you can set those run options up for multiple versions of Python, or you can point to any virtual environment if you need to run a Python in a virtual environment. So I think that's going to do it for this video. That is everything specific to how I set up a Python development environment within Atom. I hope people found this useful. The most popular questions that I get on this channel are people asking how to set up Python development environments and what I recommend. So like I mentioned earlier, I also use Sublime Text and have done a video on how to set up a Python environment within Sublime Text also, and I'll put a link to that video in the description section below. Now, if anyone is wondering if I would recommend Sublime Text or Atom, then I would just say that it depends. So I think that Atom is more user-friendly if you're just getting started out, and if you don't want to purchase Sublime Text, then I would say that Atom is a great option. But I've been using Sublime Text for so long that I'm more used to it, and I find myself going back to it often. But really, the choice is just up to you and whichever you prefer. So hopefully having videos on how to set up environments in both of these editors, now you can play around with them and just decide which one you personally like more. So if anyone has any questions about what we covered in this video, then feel free to ask in the comments section below, and I'll do my best to answer those. If you enjoy these tutorials and would like to support them, then there are several ways you can do that. The easiest way is just to simply like the video and give it a thumbs up. And also, it's a huge help to share these videos with anyone who you think would find them useful. And if you have the means, you can contribute through Patreon, and there's a link to that page in the description section below. Be sure to subscribe for future videos, and thank you all for watching.